Hello everyone and welcome to the new video. It's Lucy here and I would like to show you my new speed build that I did, and I was working on this for last couple of days. It is a mushroom cottage or a mushroom house, home, if you like to call it like that. And I was inspired by the recent news that we might be getting fairies soon. So I decided to build a mushroom house because I was thinking that is probably a place where some fairies could live. I would say that in general I'm not a big fan of occult sims, but fairies are probably the exception, and I really enjoyed to play as fairy in The Sims 3, so I am quite excited that we might be getting fairies. It's still not confirmed, at least not at the moment when I am doing the voiceover for this video, but I think that we have quite a lot of hints and quite a lot of leaks, so I am expecting to get fairies. And if you don't follow the recent news for any reason, there was a leak on a gaming platform which sells games that we might be getting this new expansion pack in July already, which is quite soon after the Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack, and it's very unusual to have this one that early, so I'm still not super sure if we are getting a full expansion pack, but I did hear that from many sources that we should be getting 2 more expansion packs after Businesses and Hobbies for this year, so that would make sense that one will come in a July and one will come probably in a November before the Christmas, which should be logical time to release a new add-on to the game. Also, if you are new here, welcome here. I like to play all sorts of games, and recently I post quite a lot of Sims videos, which is my passion for my entire life. So if you like the Sims content, please consider to subscribe to my channel, and it will help me to grow. And the feedback from you guys always encourages me to make more videos, either it's tips or tricks in the Sims games, all of them really, because I like all the Sims games, not just the Sims 4. And I also enjoy to create speed build videos because that's the creative part of all Sims games. I don't really do that many gameplay videos, but I am still considering to do some more gameplay because I forgot how fun Sims can be regarding the gameplay. So I think that I might do more gameplay videos too. And I also stream on Twitch, and however I don't really stream the Sims content, I am considering to do so even more because I did it in the past and it was quite fun to create something with all of you guys, because you are always part of these builds when you are giving me tips or ideas what you would like to see and what you would like to build yourself. So yeah, I really appreciate all of the feedback. I would love to build a community here on YouTube of Sims players, and not only Sims players, in general I like all creative games. And not just that, you can find some of my old videos on this channel when I was not doing YouTube that consistently, that I uploaded quite a lot of survival videos, survival game videos, not survival videos, not that I would be able to survive somewhere in a wilderness. I don't really think that I would, but I do enjoy any kind of gaming content in general, and I said that many times in this video already. But yeah, I would call myself a true gamer because I do like all different genres, and there is really nothing that would stop me from playing them. And now let's get to the video itself. I will comment on what you can see and what you already could see. You saw that I started with the landscaping of the terrain because that was something which I really wanted to do. I had this idea in my head that a mushroom house has to be on a top of the hill, or at least a small hill, and it should be surrounded by the water. So I created a pond. And not only that, but you will see that later in the video because that's a part that I will create later when I'm finished with the build. Generally, I do landscaping as a last thing because I think that has to complement the build itself, but terrain tool has to be done in the very beginning to not break your house really. I had to go back to adjust the terrain later because I had some issues with routing for the Sims, but you will be able to see, and I will definitely comment on that a bit later in the video. Apart from using a terrain tool, you saw me to place this big willow tree. It is actually upsized. It's not that big in the actual game, so I had to upscale it. But I felt like I need a bigger tree than my mushroom house, because it would look like a little mushroom under the tree. So that's the reason why there's such a big willow. But I also feel like it really looks good because it looks like it's guarding the house itself and looking after it. I would also like to point out that I built without custom content and without mods, so creating a mushroom house was quite a challenge, especially if I wanted to decorate the roof more. I couldn't do it without the tool mod, and I have to admit that I recently downloaded the tool mod again, and I was trying to use it, but somehow it did break my game and it didn't even launch the game itself. I was stopped at the very beginning on the loading screen of The Sims, and it couldn't let the pop-up windows to show, so it was all the time just grayed out and I couldn't react with anything, so I had to remove the tool mod. And yet again, this house is completely CC and mod free. However, I would really love to use the tool mod of Twisted Maxi, because that would make my life in the game easier. Because a lot of time I use move objects on and I want to move certain objects to clutter and decorate the area, and it's not really possible because of the slots that the items do have, and sometimes it does really stop me from placing certain things somewhere. So it is quite a challenge, and you'll see how I was struggling with placement of the items on the stairs, because I felt like I want to clutter the stairs a bit, and if I do it on a side it will still be functional. So I tried to place some plants and pots there, and that was quite successful. In general, I would say so. You'll see it in a minute. But I had to remove books that I placed there, and you will see that struggle. And at the end, I left it there for a while, but when I was taking final screenshots, I noticed that it was floating in the air. And I am a massive perfectionist, so I just couldn't let that to be uploaded in a gallery and let it happen. So at the end I did remove it because I couldn't find a way how to make it work and not to float on the stairs. So I have to admit, regarding that, I got defeated by the game, and because I was not able to use tool mod, I couldn't make that happen. And if I was able to use tool mod, I think this house would be even more cluttered than it is now. But yeah, maybe in the future I will hopefully find a way or a reason why it was not working. And I did follow entire tutorial how to install tool mod, and I also had the better build buy. So yeah, that was not the issue. I don't know why it was happening, because quite funny is that a couple of days ago I was able to use the tool mod with no issues, and then in the last 2 days when I was working on this build, or 3 days maybe, because it's Friday today that I'm doing the voiceover, I was just not able to work with the tool mod at all, as I said. So hopefully I will find a way how to fix that, or there will be update for the tool mod which will make this work, and then I can maybe use it in the future builds. But I know there are quite a lot of you who play the game vanilla same like me, with no custom content and with not using mods. So I don't really mind that I don't use tool mod in my builds, because I'm showing you what you can build yourself with no custom content and with no mods, even if the mod is not changing the gameplay, but it is changing the way how we can build better, because it is really life-changing for builders in The Sims. And I have to admit that for certain creations you can't really work without that, because you have to be able to rotate certain things around their axis and stuff like that. I think it would be really cool if The Sims 4 came up with the update which would allow us to move things better and build better, but I don't think that will happen. There's also one thing which I really want to use from Twisted Maxi, and there's an option to favorite your items. And it basically creates the collection that you put your favorite items into, and then you have everything on hand when you are building. And if it's something that you use quite a lot, then you don't have to look for it and you have it in a favorite folder. And that makes building definitely faster. One thing that I want to point out right now, what you can see is that I'm placing a pot on the stove, but I will have to remove that later because that was restricting my sim from cooking, and you will see it in the video because this time I'm also including a short footage of me playtesting the build, and I'm showing you the problematic areas. So I think that is quite interesting for you to see how I do playtest my builds, because that's one of the things that I always do when I upload anything to the gallery. I don't want you to play in a broken houses where something doesn't work. So I did playtest this quite a lot, and I hope that everything is functional, but you cannot ever be sure about that because maybe there was something that I didn't think of and didn't playtest and it might not work. But all the items that I was thinking that may cause the issues, I did playtest, and hopefully regarding that everything works as it's supposed to be. Right now in the video you can see that I was struggling a bit with those books on the stairs, and that 2 books that you could see will be removed later for the purpose of the gallery upload. Here I'm creating a custom bench because I really wanted a space where my sim could go and sit down and maybe read a book or just relax there. I really think that it adds up some dimension to the room, and you definitely did notice that I'm working with the curved walls, which are a pain to work with. And it is always glitching with the floor and ceilings, and it is obviously not as functional in a way because you cannot place there certain windows and doors, so you're quite limited to work with items around the curved walls. But I'm building a mushroom house, so I needed to have the curves, really. You can really see how detailist I am, and I am trying to move up a bit this custom bench base because the plant was floating and I couldn't allow that. Generally I went with quite a lot of plants and pots because I am thinking in my head that if I have some earth-related fairy who is like a botanist and surrounded by plants, she will have to have a house which is full of them. And honestly, if I had my own home, I would definitely have it filled with plants too, because I think they are very cheerful and it generally lifts up my spirit. And they are also very useful because they clean the air in the room. So plants are good and go for them. If you can have them, if you don't travel much, or if you have someone who can take care of them when you're gone, because they will definitely boost your mood and it just feels better to be surrounded by some parts of the nature. You could notice that I didn't place any railing to the stairs, so I was trying to make some natural barrier to make it look a bit more safe. And then I placed these room dividers there on one side of the stairs, and on the other side there are those clutter items which I feel like naturally creates some barrier from the other side. So I didn't go with any railing because I felt like it's not airy enough, and I felt like if I included a railing to the stairs it would enclose the space much more, and I really wanted this house to be airy because it's small on its own and we don't really need to feel claustrophobic inside. Every single time when I'm creating any builds, and it doesn't really matter if it's The Sims 4 or The Sims 3 or The Sims 2 or any other building game, I always try to create the way how I would like it and how I would feel about it. So I think quite a lot about the space and about the pathing or routing of the Sims where they could go. So I don't really think that you will ever see me placing the bed in the middle of the room, which I feel like it's not very safe for anyone and it would definitely disturb me from sleep. I know it's also not the best to put the headboard of the bed under the window, because the window based on Feng Shui is a potential threat. But that's one of the reasons why we do have that curtains, and we have also this light, which I feel like it's almost fairy light, which came in high school expansion pack for The Sims, and I created the natural barrier around the bed with that light. So I think that it looks quite nice and you feel safe and cozy in the bed, and I would definitely love bed like that, and I wouldn't really mind window behind because the bed also has this rattan headboard. However, I would probably say it's not super like sturdy, so it creates the barrier more like optical barrier from the window, but I don't think that it's a problem. I made this corner where I placed the mirror, and I also included this cottage living computer, which looks a bit like a typewriting machine, but it is a computer, so you can play games still on it, not only to type. But that look complements that a bit better because it doesn't look at least totally modern like a modern machine. And you may ask why a fairy would need a computer. Well, as long as we don't have a fairies in the game yet, I was trying to build it functional for any sim. And also, who says that fairies could not game, right? I think that they could definitely play some games, so let me stick to this idea that fairy can definitely play a game on a computer, and that's the reason why they need it. And maybe for some shopping and things around. Maybe they will need some ingredients for their apothec. So yeah, that's the way how to order stuff, apart from just gathering that yourself, which I think would make more sense to forage for that. But sometimes it's easier to just order stuff online, right? Couple of seconds ago, you could see that I was placing shoes under the chest of drawers. So that is something which made the drawer not functional, and I will have to delete it later. But again, I said that you will see footage from me playtesting, and that's definitely included there. So yeah, I'm just pointing that out now that it's not in a final build there. Regarding the storage, I felt like I didn't include enough of space, so I did place this open suitcase, which I feel like it's quite fun to have in this mushroom cottage. And this chest is actually functional, and you can open it and fill the items from your inventory in there, so you don't have to have full inventory like me all the time. I'm a minimalist in real life, but I feel like in games I am a massive hoarder regarding the items that you can get in the game, so my inventory is always full. I have also a sim who is a spellcaster, and she's also a celebrity, so her items in the inventory are all the time elixirs and stuff like that that she gets sent through the mailbox, so my inventory is all the time full. Apart from having a house full of plants, I was also thinking about gnomes, and I think that they could complement the mushroom cottage. Now you can see that I removed all the lights that I placed in the beginning just to have some light inside of the building, and I am placing the correct lights and lighting that I wanted to include in this build. And I'm also going back to place some switches, because if there's one thing that I like about the game, I always like to make it realistic. So radiators and light switches are items that I quite like to use. However, there's no radiator in here because there is the fireplace or a stove. So I did imagine that would be the way how to heat this mushroom cottage. I didn't talk about the world where I placed this mushroom, but if you're familiar with The Sims 4, you may know that this is the world that came with cottage living, and it's called Hanford on Bagley. And I absolutely love this world, however I don't really play there much, because for building, because I love to build a lot of base game builds, I usually use the neighborhoods that came with the base game. But I am enjoying my non-limited speed build for this time, so I didn't limit myself in using expansion packs and stuff packs, game packs, kits, so I didn't limit myself which world I'm gonna be using either. Also, this particular lot is near the waterfall up there, and there is actually a house built here normally, so I had to bulldoze it, and it's called Cordelia's Secret Cottage. So in case that you would like to download this build from the gallery, and you can definitely do that, because once I will upload this video I also upload the build there, and you can find me in the gallery as absolutely the same like on YouTube. I will definitely recommend you to place this lot on this particular lot where I'm building in the world of Hanford on Buckley, because it does blend with the neighborhood and it blends with the environment near that lot. So do that if you want to fit into the surroundings. You guessed that right, I'm using this small mushroom to create the bathroom, which is separate from the cottage, which I feel is realistic for any kind of cottage living style. You could have literally just the outhouse near the original house to go to the toilet. So yeah, I did include the bathroom, but I have it separate from the main house. This is the smallest circular room that you can possibly create, so I didn't have much space to work with and I had to fit quite a lot there. So I am not placing items on the wall, and I created this barrier in the middle, which I combined items from the Eco Living expansion pack, I believe. It is like a room divider, and I just usually like to combine them together because it creates this mesh, and it provides more cover, but you can still see through. I had a bit of issue with placing this laundry basket there because it was too close to the wall, but again, you will see it later because you will see the footage of me playtesting and fixing this stuff which was not working, and I just had to scoot the items a little bit away from the wall. Because I have a small curve on these walls, I had to choose only windows which work there to not be glitchy, and I was thinking maybe this one which is enclosed but will still work like a ventilation in case that it's needed is a perfect match. I'm also doing finishing touches on the roof, so I added this chimney there, and I created the chimney before already, which is a fake. Obviously you don't need it to actually work. It's not like in older Sims games that it would create the chimney for you, but I like to create my fake chimney in case that I do have a fireplace in the house. Originally I had a beam here where I'm placing this one from For Rent, but that was poking through the wall and I hated that, so I replaced that with this one, and then I'm just struggling again with the placement of this immaculate shelf and with my rabbit, which didn't have his ear shown. It was covered by the beam, and I can't allow that the bunny will have the rabbit ears inside of the beam, so I had to lower it and rework that a little bit. I'm adding some outside light because we need to have some lighting outside in case that we are returning home very late. So I think it's really important, and because I didn't want to include the washing machine and the dryer, we have the old school way how to wash your clothes in case that you have a laundry. This all came with the Laundry Day stuff bag, so if you don't have it you will not have this in the build, but I said that before, I like to keep my game realistic, and I feel like even a fairy would need to wash her clothes time to time, unless she would have some magic way to do it, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. But we never know, right? And that is something that we can look forward. You can see that I moved outside because I'm finished with the build itself, and I'm now working with the more landscaping tools because I am creating this small pool. And what is really a shame is that your Sims cannot swim in these ponds that you create yourself, because it's usually not considered as the area for swimming. So I included this pool which is surrounded by the pond, and although it's divided, I tried to cover it as much as I could because I have this obsession with the water in the nature, and also there is one thing that I love forever in any builds in general, in real life now I'm talking about, not about the Sims builds because I don't really usually build that. And in my country that I'm originally from, we call them biotop. and it is a natural pond that you can swim at, and it has the area which is deeper where you're swimming, and the area which is more shallow, and there are plants which take care of cleaning the water, so you don't need to use chemicals in the water to keep the water clean. And I absolutely adore this way, and I always loved any houses which had the biotop, and we also have quite a lot of public pools like that which are natural in my country. Just in case if you didn't know that, I am originally from the Czech Republic, but I do live in UK now for some time, so I do create my videos in English generally because when I started to game online and competitive, I was surrounded by my friends who were all around the world, and we were using English as the common language that we used to speak. So that is one of the reasons why sometimes people ask me why I do not stream or do not make videos in my own language. But because my online appearance was usually in English, I left it that way, and I create videos that way because I have a lot of friends all around the world and we do speak English together. So yeah, that's a little story for you. If you didn't know me, now you know a little bit more. The entire idea about this build was to create something which would be really whimsical, looking like from a fairy tale, and enchanting. And I think that the way how to achieve it is always to pay attention to the landscaping, and I always spend quite a lot of time to do that. And in case that you are making this mistake where you don't spend enough of time to do the landscaping, trust me, it's something that you need to focus on, because it does hurt quite a lot of builds if you spend all the time decorating the house and inside it looks amazing and beautiful, but from the outside it looks really sad. So if you want a tip how to make your builds better, always pay attention to the outside area at least as much as you pay to decorate the house. And I know for a lot of you it's boring and you don't like to invest the time into it, but it can definitely lift the build up and make it look more like a real home. As I already said before, I am a massive lover of water in the nature, so I definitely had to include like a pond around here. And I made one mistake which cost me quite a lot of nerves a bit later, and you'll see it in the video. I had move objects on, which is a cheat for building, which allows you to place anything, anywhere, stack objects together, and it's very helpful when you are cluttering the area, but it's not very helpful when you are placing items which have some restrictions. And because I really wanted to have ducks in my pond, I had to make it bigger, and you will see it in a little bit, because ducks need space of 3 by 3 in a pond, and I didn't have it there, so I will have to make it a bit bigger. But as I said, you will see all of this process. Anyway, I don't want to hide anything from you. There might be some small items that I didn't include in the video, but big things like that I will always try to show, because I am not trying to not be transparent about my builds, and I'm not trying to tell you that certain things are super easy, for example. Because some things do have restriction and some things are quite hard, and you have to figure it as it goes. So yeah, in case that you will want to know, as I said, ducks need 3 by 3 space in a pond. Another thing that you have to pay attention to, if you are working with the terrain tool, you always have to make sure that your Sims can walk up the hill and the hill is not too steep, because there are restrictions where your Sims will not be allowed to go in case that it is too steep. And I had to adjust some place around the house where my Sim didn't have the access to, because I really felt like I want her to have access to that area where is that little deck, broken deck. So I will show you how I fixed that. And I had to improvise a little bit because I didn't want to destroy the entire landscaping which I had there, but I did find a solution, and it may be a tip for you. You'll see it in a little while. I have to admit that all of these rocks will probably add up quite a lot of value to the house, because all of those rocks are not the debug items and I'm actually paying for them. But I have to admit that I use them quite a lot in all of my builds, and I couldn't imagine to not have any rocks. And because I had a difficult layout and difficult terrain here, I found out one shrub or very low shrub or a plant that I tried to cover some areas, because it was the one which didn't look like it's floating. So that helped a lot too. I'm trying to mix and match some plants here, because it always looks more natural if you have a variation, and also variation in the color. Here I did a mistake of sizing up and sizing down the ducks, because that would not work anyway. So I'm actually really glad that I disabled the move objects on to see what is the issue with that. And you can see it here, it's red. So I figured out that it has to be a flat terrain. And I said before it should be 3 by 3 to fit there the ducks, so it has to be a flat terrain 3 by 3. Because of that, I had to sacrifice that water pump that I have on the left side of the footage right now, but I couldn't sacrifice ducks, so water pump had to go. Apart from ducks, bunnies definitely had to stay as well, and it wasn't a hard choice what will have to go. So as I said, water pump is gone, and now I'm adjusting the terrain that it doesn't look too steep. However, my sim will still not be allowed to walk into that area if I left it like that. But as I said before, you will see how I fixed that and what solution I found for that. I'm still working on more landscaping, because there is never enough of landscaping, and now I moved in front of the house because I'm going to cover this entire space, which is in between of that little paving or path road, and it will be all covered by plants because it looks nice, and more plants is better. This is the shrub that I was talking about. It does look a bit silly here, because it does look like it's floating, but if you look down, you can still see like roots and everything. So I just created this illusion that it's not floating, and I filled it up with more and more shrubs and bushes and plants and rocks, of course, because they cannot be missing here. I always love plants and lavender especially. However, I felt like this will be quite a humid area because of the water, so I'm not really sure if in the real life lavenders will work there, but it's a game, so even I'm trying to be realistic, I place them where the rocks are, and that's where you would normally have them probably. So let's say that the front of the house is very sunny and dry, and the lavenders are there fine. And here are some more lavenders in the pots. I'm just working on like finishing touches of the outside area. So yeah, I'm just going through the menu and I'm looking for the items that I could fit in here and they would look good. And I changed the different lighting just to see how everything works. And at this point, I just realized that I don't have a bin outside, which is one thing that I almost always forget to place in my builds. I don't know what is wrong with me, but it's either bin inside or bin outside. So I thought, logically, you don't want to really walk across the entire lot with your rubbish. So I placed that next to the back door of the house, so they have easy access, whoever's gonna live in this mushroom house. And now I already have a sim on the lot, which I'm playtesting with, and I'm working on this terrain because it was too steep for her to walk on. And one thing that I didn't include in the video, the final build, which is in the gallery, has a bit scooted awning above the door, if I can call it like that, because it was restricting my sim to actually use the door. And here you can see all of the changes that I had to make this house functional. So I moved some shelving. I had to replace this light, which I didn't think of that it will restrict my sim to walk under that, but it's probably considered for like a higher ceilings. So yeah, I had to remove that one and replace it. Now I'm scooting this here just to make the access to the laundry basket, and don't worry, that mirror is back in place. I just didn't include that in the video. And here is the solution, how to make the access to the lower area of this ground. I just placed stairs there, so at least my sim can access that area near the water and near the deck. I'm removing the shoes here because I said before that she couldn't use the dresser, and the shoes were the problem. So I did take them off. They're not there anymore. I had to play around with all of the items because I wasn't sure what is stopping my sim from using the dresser. And she was walking around naked and I wanted her to dress up. And that was a perfect reason how to test the drawer. And I had to remove every single item from the drawer just to make it work. So I had to make sure that I put that back once I removed the shoes, because I wanted all of that clutter there because I like that. And again, it just adds that realism to the game because, let's be honest, we all have clutter around for sure, even minimalists do. And now enjoy the final screenshots of the build. I didn't include a part of the video where I was painting the ceilings because I felt like if I left the ceilings plain, it would not be the greatest, because I wanted to add more of this wooden aspect into my cottage, and I think that ceilings can make a massive difference. And here you have also some in-game footage of my sim using the mushroom cottage and all of the items that we have around. And I hope that you enjoyed the video if you made it so far. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate all of you guys. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you're looking forward to this new expansion pack, which hopefully is coming soon with fairies. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, please consider to subscribe because it helps me to grow. And I hope that I will see you in some of my other videos. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!